would be. But they look at you and they say, you're willing to give everything. You're willing to give up your freedom. You're willing to give up all the things the world would. That's insanity. Yeah, I got that just recently. A couple of you may have seen that. A couple weeks ago, I was on an HLN program. It's a CNN channel. And didn't get to say much first time around. But after the program, they did this little after show thing they post on Facebook. And there was a psychologist chick on the panel in leopard print. And nothing wrong with leopard print. My wife likes leopard print, but I don't know, psychologist, leopard print. But she was saying in the after show that, there are some people who are just so hyper-religious that it's a form of insanity. And we sit here and we chuckle right now because it's like, we all know that if she really had to say more than 5 or 6 sentences in a row, the train just comes right off the tracks. No problem with those who came by train. But I have to remind myself, that's the kind of person that's going to be in charge of determining whether maybe I do need to be put in prison because I've lost my mind. You see, folks, a couple years ago, I've had the opportunity for a few years now. Can't find any place to teach in the United States, so people overseas love to have me teach, so it's fun that way. Not seriously about that, but I have had some awesome opportunities teaching overseas. I've been teaching for EBTC in Berlin, and I don't do a lot of sightseeing. In Berlin, there's a few things you might want to see. The first thing I saw was Sachsenhausen, which was Hitler's own private death camp during World War II. Ironically, when the Russians came in, they just took it over and expanded it. And then, since EBTC is located in former East Berlin, we went to the Stasi prison. The Stasi were the East German secret police, the German version of the KGB. And we toured that. And there were even survivors of that would give tours. And I could not help but think what it would be like. The isolation, the separation. You would just disappear one day and nobody would know where you were, whether you were alive or not. Just the torture of realizing your wife or your children, they don't even know where you are, whether you're still alive or not, or they'll ever see you again. The isolation, the things that they would do to you there. I think about that and I realize that leopard-skinned hipster lady psychiatrist, they're the ones that work in those places. Makes it a little bit more serious. Here in Romans chapter 1, we have a description from God of man in his sinfulness. There are a few texts of Scripture that are more, for me, demonstrative of the inspiration of the Bible than this section. Because in a matter of a few sentences, the Apostle Paul describes the consistent behavior and nature of mankind across time, across cultures, across languages, and across history, like no one else has ever done. I just cannot see how these words could arise from a non-supernatural source. But if you believe what is written here, you have to live and act in light of it. Now, I don't have time to work all the way through this section, unfortunately. But I do want to just make a few comments and make application. Because my fundamental message to you this morning, other than to wake you up, every one of you, you're making decisions that will impact the rest of your life right now at this time in your life. Not just decisions about careers, where you're going to live, who you're going to marry. But may I suggest to you, you're making decisions that will determine whether you will have the freedom to serve Christ in the fullest sense. And if you are not taking that into consideration, you're not thinking wisely. What would it mean for you to be able to serve Christ fully? What would that mean as to what you're making decisions about right now? How many things are you thinking about that might become an entanglement, that might become a weight that would keep you from being able to do what God would call you to do in the midst of this generation at this time? God is placing you in the midst of horrific darkness and rebellion so that your light will shine all the brighter. Are you ready for that? Are you ready for that? You won't do it if you are not convinced that God has spoken with clarity and that the issues you are standing firm on, you must stand firm on. Already, right now, about once a month, a new book drops, specifically designed to allow you to escape standing firm on issues such as human sexuality, marriage, the lordship of Christ, the nature of the gospel. Their entire books, entire denominations have already given in. You know, PCUSA did it recently. Episcopalian Church, ELCA, United Church of Christ did it. I think they did it before they started. But it's going to be much. Oh, those are all the liberals. Yep. Give it time. Give it time. I read a book last year by a pastor of a vineyard church. Vineyard church, charismatic, very conservative. Yep. Promoting the full acceptance of homosexuality, including homosexual marriage in the church. That book then was read by the elders of another evangelical church in Southern California recently, and they collapsed on the same issue. Most of you have heard of people like Justin Lee, the head of the Gay Christian Network, Matthew Vines. They are primarily dependent now upon the new Bible of the quote-unquote gay Christian movement. James Brownson's book, The Bible, Gender, and Sexuality, came out in 2013. There are entire books out there that are specifically designed to give you a reason to say, you know what? This is not a hill to die on. And I believe a very large portion